We stand firm in our belief.
Hold tight.
Through the times clearer we can see. Crazy world spinning round.
Stay grounded.
In our hearts simple truths agree. Whisper of freedom and liberty.
Rings true.
Our foundation strong and deep. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow. In the story we've built for trust in you,
No doubt.
time flies but we won't bend. Communists talk loud and fast.
Stay solid.
Our quiet strength is our reply. So salute to change but pause.
Reflect.
In unity our dearest friend. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow. In shadows we find our light. Through chaos we stay upright.
Stay
With courage, faith on our side.
forever.
Standing firm, our guide. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow.
In our little town so serene, where the grass is green and air so clean, we gather round the table every night. Joyful days, oh, once I end, with values passed, with generations past, living life with love that surely lasts. As the city lights look bright, we hold to our roots tight. In our hearts the same old fires, guided by the good old days. Sharing moments with friends always divine. Working hard for what we seek, respecting each word we speak, holding dear to our family ties underneath these nostalgic skies. As the city lights so bright got you tight, but our hearts the same old fire. Oh, yeah. We sway with every change of time, but in our hearts, old love and soul, that baby in our heart, getting like a thought ain't not in this fast-paced world we can fight. Traditions keep our hearts going wild. Love goes goodbye in our hearts simple ways. We got it by the good old days.
In the diner, sipping soda pop, jukebox tunes that never stop. I see faces print from different scenes, lost the cultures on a different dream. We walk down the same old street, but our stories never meet. Different worlds side by side in this twisting 50s ride.
Times are changing, feel the buzzing, staying true when they're fussing. Keep the the flag a-flying through stormy nights, with the star-spangled banner I stand tall with manners, cross my heart with hope in sight. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and free, with liberty. Stick to values in the trends, families gather, let's defend. Hold the line, keep the bond alive. Truth in our vision, in God we make decisions for our dream, through thrive and strive. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and free, with liberty. We'll keep fighting for what's right, standing strong in the night. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and bravery, with liberty.
I thought the world would turn slower, not as fast as it does. Conservative hearts were steady, sure and just because. A simpler time of values, when right was what it was. It seems like those days vanished with just a fleeting pause.
Right-wing dreams of yesterday, steady in the fray, keeping timeless traditions, leading all the way.
All right. Welcome everyone to Culturama and tonight's episode, the first episode of the new year. Happy 2025. I hope all of you had a wonderful New Year's Eve celebration. I know I did. I had a really good time and I'm sure that most of you have as well. But interestingly enough, this new year has started off with quite a bang. I assume that most of you are already aware of the Cybertruck attack that happened in Trump Tower in Vegas. There's also New Orleans attack as well. So we will be talking about that and more on this show. There is going to be some sensitive material covered on this show as well, because I will touch on the groomer gang situation that's happening in the United Kingdom. And for those that are unaware about it, you will... figure out as we proceed with this episode. But I do want to welcome and thank everyone that has decided to show up in tonight's episode, where on Culturama, if you're unaware with the mission statement or what it is that I do here on this show, what I'm trying to do alongside with my wonderful audience is reclaim the zeitgeist back into the United States. Reclaim the tradition of traditional Americana, away from the critical theory and the postmodernism that has embedded every part of our culture, whether that be in higher education, academia, or just in the greater culture in general. And what we're trying to do on this show is to talk about very pertinent subjects relating to the conservative movement, relating to American politics in general, and relating to American culture. And we're trying to dissect each piece of what it is that makes American culture and Americana so great, and where it fails. And so I will be talking a lot about the failure points on this show today, but I wanted to say hello to everyone that did manage to join the chat so far, and I will be looking through that right now because I see we already have familiar faces in the chat. We have Entropy Nomad. Thank you so much for joining, Entropy Nomad. We have Grizz Cheese saying, good evening, pineapples. Good evening, Grizz Cheese. We have Bucks Nasty, of course. And I saw that we also have new YouTube viewers as well, which is a big deal because this show is primarily streaming on Rumble, but it does stream on all major platforms. But it's really good and I would say emboldening to see new YouTube accounts comment as well. So thank you for all the YouTube comments, including Dash, and I believe that's Jose as well. So I want to thank all you guys for joining us today. And Dash asked, what are we going to talk about, I presume? And Dash, you're in for a treat because we have a lot to talk about on this show, some of which is rather serious, I will add. And, you know, it is going to be kind of a touchy subject. For instance, the groomer gang situation that is happening in the UK, I think is very important and pertinent to discuss, especially as far as law enforcement is concerned in this country. And although it's happening across in Europe, across seas in Europe, and this is a case that has been going on for over 10 years. I don't want to give out the story right now because I've just started. However, I will give a quick preview. But it is a serious case. There are groomer gangs occurring, and for the last, I would say, beyond a decade at this point. And law enforcement has done little to nothing to take care of that situation. And I don't want to give it away, but I'm sure all of you can guess what the reason is. They don't want to be perceived as racist because a lot of these groomer gangs are being conducted by Pakistani immigrants. It's a very unfortunate situation, but I did see a spread out on Twitter and on the rest of online media, and I thought it would be very important to discuss, especially because Elon Musk has actually reignited the topic. Following everything that has occurred with Elon Musk and the H-1B situation, I think he is trying to, I suppose, reclaim his right-wing support by bringing this case up and this topic up, although it shouldn't just be a right-wing situation. This is a situation that's affecting everyone, and it's affecting the youth of the country of the UK. So it is important to discuss this. I have seen a lot of people discuss this, so we'll be talking about it on the show later on. However, we do have a lot more to talk about, of which we have had 2 attacks happen just as soon as the first day of 2025 has transpired. We already are seeing attacks, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if that is a red flag, but I'm just hoping that this year will be a good one. Fingers crossed, okay? I have every reason to believe it will be a good year, and so do you, okay? We have our guy in office. Fingers crossed he will follow through with the plan. I hope we just trust the plan, okay? So let's all put together our hearts and our minds in prayer, or if you don't believe in God, in good thoughts, and we just hope for the best for this year. So I'll be covering the attacks as well. I don't want to say, I'm going to try to use euphemisms for the language because as far as I'm aware and I've come to find out is that if you use certain terminology as far as they relate to attacks, or any violent behavior publicly, you will get kind of shadow banned online. I've had my stream basically shadow banned multiple times, especially on X. So I will try I'll be a good today. I'll be a good girl, and I won't say any, any inflammatory language that relates to violent behavior. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys remember the Luigi Mangione situation. I said, I described Luigi as what he was, and then the stream got shadow banned. So I'm going to try and not say the T word as it pertains to the Cybertruck attack, okay, by Trump Tower. So I'll be good. But I see that the chat is popping off here in Rumble, so thank you guys for joining today. We have also Nelson65 in the chat. Thank you so much, Nelson65, for joining. And as this stream proceeds, I will love to see the donations. It goes a long way in supporting the stream. I say that every show, and I will continue to say it. It goes a really long way in supporting the stream. And thanks to your guys' donations, in part, I was able to go to America Fest as well in Arizona just over a week ago, right before Christmas, and that was great. And we got a lot of great interviews for that as well. So I am putting together a video, a compilation, so to speak, for you guys to enjoy, seeing how Culturama is going into the big leagues, okay? It's going into the big events like Turning Point USA's America Fest, so I will be posting that as well. I know I said in the last stream that I will be watching those videos, and we still can. I feel like with the topics I'll be covering today, I want to keep it a little bit more serious, so I have reconsidered it, but I'm still thinking about it. Maybe we'll watch it this stream, but if not, definitely next stream. And we have another new comment here from Freedom on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining, Freedom. Looking good, Daniela. Happy New Year. Where is the star of the show? The King, Leo. Well, Freedom, you know what? Leo did make an appearance last stream on New Year's Eve. I like to kind of mix and match a little bit. Some streams I like to bring him on at the end of the stream. I always hold him off till the end of the stream so people can actually wait to see him. You know what I mean? But I might bring him on this stream. I don't know. He is a little tired. I don't want to spoil you guys and bring him on every single stream, okay? And also, he's an old man. I have to treat him well because he has to be in a good mood to do those things and to make an appearance. But you know what? If I get enough donations this stream, maybe I will wheel Leo out. I don't have an outfit prepared for him, unfortunately, but perhaps I will bring him out. Entropy Nomad is asking what the T word means. I don't know if this is a flag word. It's not a bad word. It's just a word that you know what the T word is, okay? It rhymes with what's a good rhyming word? Terrorist. So I think that clarifies what I'm trying to say. Nelson65 with the $5. Thank you so much, Nelson65. Happy New Year and welcome back. We missed you. Yes, Leo. Thank you, Nelson65. I don't know if you were around for the last stream on New Year's Eve. I did do a stream then, but yes, I have been out. It has been the holidays. I was traveling to Arizona previous to that, so I couldn't stream that week as well. So I was probably out of commission for like 2 weeks. And then I got sick as well. That's what happens when you travel. And what's also very well known is that when you go to events like Turning Point USA's America Fest, they call it the AM flu. That's some insider knowledge. The staff will call it the AM flu, but like multiple people always get sick. They have the flu or the cold, and I've had a cough for multiple weeks now. It's actually quite interesting. Before I went on the trip, I had a cough, and I had minor cold symptoms, and it wasn't a big deal, right? I could still function quite normally. And then I was getting better, and then when I went on the trip to Arizona right before Christmas, I think it was a week before Christmas, it got even worse, and the cough would just not go away, and it's been like 3 weeks. And then when I come back for Christmas, I got even more sick. I still have the cough, as you can tell, but after just a few days of quality sleep, it's pretty much gone away. So I still have it's amazing. I still have a runny nose. It's been almost a month at this point. And a little bit of a cough, but it's not nearly as bad. Do you guys remember the cough I had right before I flew out to Arizona? I was on stream. I couldn't even handle myself. I was losing my voice. Nelson says he missed me on New Year's Eve. He missed this stream. Okay, no problem. I was out with family. Understandable, Nelson. I would hope you go out with your family first before joining in on the stream. But I'm glad you could join us today. Entropy Nomad, I did not attend and I got the flu as well. It was hitting Arizona during December. Fair enough. Yeah, and it's just that time of the year, you know what I mean? Barney Styles, has anyone in the U.S. managed to detonate a bomb since the Boston Marathon? I can't think of any. I'm not quite sure about that, but we will be discussing the Cybertruck attack following through, and I think it was, I have to look through the tweets again. I think it was like fireworks. I could be wrong, but I'm going to continue on with this stream. I love to interact with you guys. It's really difficult not to. But I'm going to pull up the first few stories as we proceed along. And this has to do with the Cybertruck attack at Trump Towers in Vegas. It's very funny. I was watching the ball drop in Vegas the other day, on a day ago on New Year's Eve at a friend's house. And it was just like footage in the background. I don't live in Nevada, so clearly I wasn't watching it for the actual ball drop, but it was just footage playing in the background. And when we switched the channel, turn it off to watch a different countdown, I think that's like, as soon as I turned off the television, I think that's when the attacks happened, shortly after that. So it was funny to see that I was watching on television. But anyway, it was just a few hours after that. Brandon J. Meyer, Kamala bombed, does that count? Kamala bombed. You know what? I never know with these things. Bomb could even be a trigger word as far as I'm concerned, okay? It's really unfortunate that we have to walk around pins and needles here in order to get the news out, but this is just this case of the situation. And it's not like my channel is going to get banned or anything, but I still want it to be fully accessible to everyone. And I want, obviously I want as many eyes as on it as possible. So I don't want to fumble what I'm doing here. But you know what would help me a lot? If you can't send in a donation, share the stream, especially if you're watching on X, like it, share it, and maybe retweet it or quote tweet it. It goes a long way in supporting the stream and supporting viewership as well. So I'm going to be pulling up the next few stories here as we proceed. But first, before I do that, I want to ask you guys a favor, and I want to take you on a journey, so to speak. So let me pull up something for you guys. Okay. Don't mind the dead air here. Okay. I don't know if you guys saw the viral tweet about buying a Rolex and going into debt, but I made my own version of this, and it has to do with Culturama gear. If you are a guy in your early 20s, specifically, buy a Culturama pillow, go into debt if you have to. And here's a picture of me holding the Culturama pillow. And if you are a man who does want to perhaps buy a Culturama pillow, or even better, a Culturama mug, look at the beautiful mug here. We have radioactive communist zombies. You obviously have the Culturama logo and the Culturama font right here. And of course, yours truly holding up the Culturama gun, ray gun. Don't mind the lipstick on the cup. I was just drinking coffee from it. But if this is something that you're interested in purchasing, and let me tell you fellas, it is a chick magnet, okay? You will not be wasting money. You'll actually be investing quite a bit by getting these products. All you have to do is go to the Culturama collection on the AP for Liberty shop. And if you really want to find it, all you have to do is just type in apforlibertyshop.com/Culturama podcast. But I'll show you right now, AP for Liberty shop. So all you have to do is go on your URL, type in AP for Liberty shop, and then just type in Culturama collection. You press enter. And it's the first link that gets posted, and you just click on it. And this is a homepage for the Culturama shop. And all you have to do is just scroll down and take a look. Obviously, we have that gorgeous banner that Austin Peterson created. And we have all these wonderful products. And I am going to be creating and posting up more products in the future as well. But we have a Daniela Culturama pillow. We have mugs, we have face creams, we have jewelry boxes, we have mugs, and of course we have the characteristic Culturama pillow. If you don't want something with Culturama on it specifically, we do have the Doge. Well, this Christmas ornament, you can still get it for next year, but we have the Doge Field Agent hoodie as well. So we have a lot of beautiful products on the shop. And also, if you want something else, if you want to just support the AP for Liberty shop in general, you could just go on, and we have all kinds of other collections as well. We have, geez, he has a lot in here actually. Here's all the show collections. So obviously we have the Culturama collection, my show. We have the Liberty Tonight merch as well. And the Liberty Tonight are the comedic couple of fellas that stream right after mine on Thursdays on Rumble. And of course, you have the Wake Up America show merch, the one and only Austin Peterson. So please consider supporting. He has a lot of stuff, by the way. Look at that. Oh, he has a dog. I see the pet bandana. I asked my audience on Twitter if you guys wanted pet clothing because, you know, I have the Unleash the Beast. I need to make that into an actual segment. I have the Unleash the Beast situation with Leo. I asked my Twitter audience if this is something they'd be interested in. Majority of people voted no. So I thought, okay, no pet clothing. But I think a bandana would be a nice middle ground here. So anyway, there's a lot of wonderful things that you could purchase to support the show, and you get something tangible out of supporting the show. But there are many different ways to support it. However, if this is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend that you look into it and perhaps getting yourself a Culturama pillow, mug, or perhaps anything else on the AP for Liberty shop as well. So I will be right back. I'm going to be pulling up the first few stories, and you guys just stay tuned, and it's gonna be a good one, folks.
In the heart they gather strong, pushing back the lefty's throng. With the red banner held high, marching forward through the night. Promises of old will keep, as the donkeys start to weep. Stars and stripes forever sway, in the land of the brave we stay. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down.
With a flagpole planted firm,
golden dreams that won't decay,
marching proudly through the day.
In the eagle's shadow wide, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we stride, in the light of freedom's sky. We got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down.
In the diner sipping soda pop, jukebox tunes that never stop. I see faces from different scenes, lost the cultures on a different stream. We walk down the same old street, but our stories never meet. Different worlds side by side in this twisting 50s ride.
In our little town so serene, where the grass is green and air so clean, we gather round the table every night. Joyful days, oh, what sight, with values passed from generations past, living life with love that surely lasts. As the city lights look bright, we hold to our roots tight, in our hearts the same old choirs, guided by the good old days. Sharing moments with friends always divine. Working hard for what we seek, respecting each word we speak, holding dear to our family ties underneath these nostalgic skies. As the city lights so bright got me tight, and our hearts the same old fire. Oh yeah. We sway with every change of time, but in our hearts old vows and sword that made baby and I not getting like a thought ain't not in this fast-paced world we can fight. Traditions keep our hearts going wild, but those are fine. Our hearts in the ways we got it by the good old days.
Okay, we are back, and we are back with the big top stories that everyone is talking about, and that is the Cybertruck attacks that has occurred in front of Trump Towers in Las Vegas, Nevada. And let me pull up the stories here for you guys so we could look at it in real time. So Elon Musk has initially first tweeted out about this because obviously it relates to his products here, but this is what he has written. We have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by a very large set of fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of a rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. How scummy is that? At least bomb your own car, right? Right? The vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion. And here we have a video of the occurrence. So let's take a listen. Let me make sure my volume levels are up here. In fact, I don't know if this video has sound actually. Oh, it does. Okay. Look at that. So there it is. Man. Happy New Year's, everyone. So I've seen some propaganda stating that this is a great Cybertruck ad because the Cybertruck barely went through without really getting any damage, but I don't think that's entirely accurate, and I do believe this is just your common Tesla propaganda. However, I think that it obviously prevented some scale of damage, more so than what you have seen in a different car, perhaps a more flimsy car. But that's the footage that we have there so far. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but here's some more footage from a different angle. The Cybertruck catches fire outside the Trump Hotel. So afterwards, it probably caught some fire. There you go. Damn, look at that. Imagine being the person in that lobby and seeing this, witnessing this. Obviously, you're going to pull out your phone and film it, but I would be mortified, actually. Parts of it are, like, falling apart. I suppose the car didn't sustain as much damage as I had initially realized, but I still don't think it would have lasted long during the attacks, frankly. So this has all occurred. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this on the news, but a bolt of lightning has also struck the Capitol, I believe, on New Year's Eve day, or the day preceding it. I believe it's New Year's Eve day, however. So you have these events and occurrences happening as soon as the new year comes into fruition, and so we are at this very precarious situation where I don't like to believe in omens, but if there was such a thing as omens, this series of events probably would be an omen. The Cybertruck attack in front of Trump Towers. I mean, obviously it is all intentional. I have just seen news articles come out saying it turns out that the bombing was in fact intentional. Like, of course it was intentional. You have a Cybertruck, a Tesla, in front of Trump Tower. especially considering what has occurred these last couple weeks now, or a week, or I suppose, concerning the H-1B dialogue. Although I don't think that the perpetrator of this perhaps would be aligned with those arguments, but still, I think that everything that has occurred, also with the setup and creation of Doge as well, obviously it's intentional. And if it wasn't crazy, what crazier coincidence would have come to surpass? Obviously not at this level. But also the New Orleans attacks as well occurring, which is far more, I would say, devastating than this one. But I think there's only one casualty from this attack. But paired up with all of these events, you also see, or you've come to see, that there is literally an act of God happening a day ago where a bolt of lightning has struck the Capitol. And I see this floating around the news, quite interesting stuff happening. And you see that this comment right here says that it's a sign from God. I'd be willing to believe that. The comments are riddled with very quality people. But anyway, so the man behind the Cybertruck explosion outside a Trump International Hotel served as a military base, as the same as a New Orleans terrorist. So that's a very interesting connection as well, and begs the question about if there is anything else more nefarious happening here. If there's like a network of people that are, I suppose, privy to the details of these attacks, or perhaps is it just a really crazy coincidence? Are there two coincidences now where there is a Cybertruck in front of the Trump Tower, but also both the perpetrators of both attacks come from the same military base? I don't know. Law enforcement raided a home in Colorado Springs belonging to a 37-year-old man on Wednesday night. He also had multiple addresses in Colorado Springs. The suspect has a military background and served at the same base as, and I'm going to butcher this name, but I don't care, Shamsuddin Jabbar, the New Orleans terrorist who killed 15 on New Year's Day. Like I said, that attack is more devastating and more depressing. Obviously, there was one casualty with the Cybertruck attack, and that's also devastating, but not as much as 15. But both are quite unfortunate to happen, and we have these two videos here. This is from the New Orleans attack. Obviously, this is the footage that we have just seen with the Cybertruck attack. The cyber attack. So, and we have this tweet right here, which I just found really interesting. What do you guys think about that? I don't think it means anything serious, obviously, but 2025 is indeed lit so far. It has been lit just for the first couple days, and I suspect that it's going to become even more lit as time progresses, and even more lit as we see Trump take office, and for the next 4 years, I am not going to be shocked if things are just going to be like a complete roller coaster for this country. It already has been for the events preceding up to 2025, with the dialogue that we have seen online concerning immigration and H-1B visas, and the big players within the MAGA movement and the tech right movement and so forth. And on top of all of this, we have these various attacks that are taking now symbolic form, and we see that the perpetrators of these attacks are becoming a little bit more creative with what they're doing, and they're taking note of the, I suppose, the political climate and the political arena that's happening, and they are recreating these, I suppose, you could say, omens, or these they're using symbology in their attacks, not in the classical sense, of course, but they're utilizing whatever materials that we have presently to encapsulate the political movements of the right wing and of American politics in general. But Mario Naufal, big guy on Twitter, already reported this, saying that the Cybertruck that detonated inside the Trump Hotel was packed with fireworks-style mortars, and we have seen that in the footage where the bombing occurred. You saw multiple smaller ones take off as well afterwards. Let's take a watch again. So you see how there's like...
Copy.
Yeah, there's like sparks and flares going off, so it would lead one to believe that it would be a firework, obviously. Okay, and then in the midst of all this, like we've discussed, with the actually, do I have the information pulled up of who the attacker was? I do not. I will pull that up afterwards. But, like I mentioned, that the same guy who conducted that attack in front of Trump Tower is the same one that has conducted the one in New Orleans, and so here is some cell phone footage revealing what happened in New Orleans. But this one is a bit more devastating, like I had mentioned. It took the lives of, I believe, 15 individuals, but let's just read this tweet out loud here. Newly released cell phone footage from New Orleans captures a moment terrorist, again, Shamsuddin Jabbar, exits his crashed vehicle and begins firing into the crowd. The suspect was fatally shot by police at the scene and is believed to have been part of a larger group. And also to note, he was a Democrat and who donated to Act Blue. He served 10 years in the military as an HR and an IT specialist and had recently been working as a real estate agent in Houston, Texas. So authorities suspect a terrorist cell may have been active or is being active and is being actively investigated right now, leading to the postponement of the Sugar Bowl. Why would any organized terrorist openly display an ISIS flag, intentionally drawing unnecessary attention? And there has been an ISIS flag found at the scene. Let's watch this video here.
What the fuck? I died this fucking died!
Yikes.
Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! What the fuck?
Yeah, obviously chaotic footage. You know, and this guy, he has obviously ties with ISIS that has already been established. Also registered Democrat, but to the point where he has donated to Act Blue. So he's an active participant within that party. At least so far as for him to donate money to them. You know, maybe he wasn't a precinct committee officer, but he did donate money enough. He shows enough dedication to believe in the cause. So Democrat, and I would not be surprised. Obviously, apparently ISIS member, or I don't want to use a T word again, but I would not be surprised if this guy's a Hotep. I'm just going to be frank with you. Here's a video of him, of Jabbar, U.S. citizen and human resource specialist in the military. This is a video of him speaking.
Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've taken those skills and applied them to my career.
Very
Texas,
professional
and
individual.
now live in
Obviously,
Houston.
I'm sure he has a very popping LinkedIn. But yeah, so clearly he seems like a very well-adjusted individual. I've seen articles also detailing the fact that, you know, he may not have has had a extensive professional background, but he did get into the military because he wanted some discipline. And there was no reason to believe that this individual would do this, but apparently there has been some... what did this... should I just say the word? I mean... I don't want to use language again, guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to use language that will ban this or anything or shadow ban this, but there are cells of activity within the United States that are very concerning, of which may be sympathetic to ISIS goals. There. I think I encapsulated that pretty well. Crossing those T's all right. Says Brandon J. Meyer. Yeah, I know, right? He's really taking it quite seriously. But what do you guys think is happening here? I mean, obviously, these aren't coincidences, and these are targeted attacks. And should the country be more concerned? I wonder if there was a particular reason for why these attacks would occur the day after New Year's. And perhaps they're trying to make... they're trying to cause a certain conversation going on here. we haven't had attacks like this in a while. Like, yes, we've had more rogue attacks as of late, like those done by people like Mangione, or that other individual, the female who has done attacks at her school. But we haven't seen something like this in a while, where it's clearly part of a larger network, and it leads me to believe if the United States should be more concerned for our national integrity and our national identity is being put in question right here. I don't think that the locations really mattered as far as New Orleans. Obviously, the Trump Tower was in Vegas, so it was probably just an attack of opportunity. But I do wonder what the long-term goal is here, or what message they're trying to employ. I mean, clearly they're trying to send a very clear message, especially with the initial attack in front of Trump Tower. But time will only tell. All I can say is, you guys, just stay safe when you go out there. It's unfortunate that we live in this era. America has never been really the same since 9/11, obviously, as far as security is concerned. Even if you fly domestically, you see this happen in real time, where the amount of security you have to go through. When I was going through TSA, when I was flying out of Arizona, the amount of effort I had to put in to get through with this microphone was tremendous. Okay, maybe not flying into Arizona, it wasn't as much because there's a lot of people. When I was flying out of Arizona, they treated this thing like it was a bomb. So JJ4884 says, damn Patriot Act and TSA. Yeah, exactly. We're never going to live in a normal time period anymore. Especially with the enhancement of technology and communication technology, we clearly don't have any privacy anymore, and that's certainly something that we are all aware of, and younger generations are going to grow up being aware of, unfortunately, and I don't know how that's going to impact young people's minds. I grew up in a time, I was born in 95, so I barely, I suppose, experienced a time of, I wouldn't say peace, but at least some form of detachment from this surveillance network that young kids are growing up in today. And I certainly didn't grow up with social media on the same level like kids did today, so I may have been the last generation to really experience a normal childhood, perhaps, or whatever we perceive as a normal childhood. And we will certainly not see this moving forward, especially as more frequently these attacks are happening. And let's just hope there's no going back, is what I'm trying to say here. It's very sad. There is no going back. There is no going back to a time of complete peace from the established surveillance network, a technological network that we have to rely on for communication and for professional endeavors. There is no going back. But the question is, how do we proceed forward and how we cope with it? And I think how we have been coping with it isn't the best method of doing so. And with the Snowden situation as well, that certainly doesn't help. But I really don't have any answers for this. But the digital age that we are living in is quite scary. And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I really think that this is important to talk about. Oh, thank you so much, Entropy Nomad. You look young for nearing 30. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I will be 30 very soon, actually. No, within a year. I am, my birthday is in the summertime, so I just recently, a few months back, turned 29. So I still have some time, but yes, I am hitting 30. Brandon J. Meyer, Netcom and AOL here. Wow, I have never experienced an AOL, like the AOL chats. I'm not that age, but I did grow up with a computer, and I remember I wrote a research paper about this in college. And this was in 2015. So I don't quite remember. It was, they're still referencing that paper in the school library, actually. But it was one of my best scholarly works. But I remember I did research on generation, or on what characterizes an American generation, right? And I went all the way back to the silent generation up until Generation Z. Generation Alpha wasn't really a piece of conversation at the time. And I wrote this article, and I remember really debating whether or not 94, 95, and 96, those 3 years, the middle of the 90s, were considered millennial or Generation Z. And there was heated debate on this. And I just call myself a zillennial, honestly, because I really cannot relate to either the millennial generation or the Zoomer generation. And there was some discussion about whether or not what characterizes a person as Generation Z, you can only characterize them as Generation Z if they grew up with digital materials, if they grow up alongside utilizing a computer. Because a lot of individuals that are in the millennial generation didn't actually have access to a computer growing up, especially during the developmental years. They first experience a computer in school, or out of the age, or like past the age of 5 years old or so forth, when they're using it in school for like computer lab and things like that. And I grew up with a computer. I played computer games as early as 3 years old, or as early as I could actually conceptualize and utilize a computer and conceptualize consciousness. But so I was under the impression, based on what they said, that I technically grew up like a Zoomer, but maybe based on the age, maybe I fall into the millennial generation. So you know what? I hate this. I just call myself a zillennial. I don't consider myself a millennial. I don't consider myself fully Zoomer. I'm just in that weird cusp. I'm a cusp kid is what I like to say. So at any rate, but Buck's nasty. I never had a pager, but some school had them. I remember seeing pagers. Brandon J. Meyer, I was Gen X. I hope you're still Gen X, Brandon J. Meyer. Gen X, I think, is the best generation because you guys are like the most, how do I say this? The latchkey kid generation is, my parents are Gen X. I know a lot of Gen X. I actually worked with a lot of Gen X people in politics when I worked in politics for quite some time. But Gen X, in my experience, are the most chill individuals, and they're also not led or driven towards activism or positions relating to activism as much as millennials, but they're also not nearly as selfish as boomers. So Gen X were raised by boomers and were raised essentially by parents that were primarily not related in the child's life. That's why it's called the latchkey kid generation. And so because of this, Gen X really grew up with a great level of cynicism towards the system, towards their political systems, their officials, their government, and other people in positions of leadership. Not in the same way that boomers were, especially in the 60s, but boomers had had a greater tendency towards activism like the millennial generation is. But Gen X kind of weren't compelled to do that. Instead, it seems to be the case that Gen X parents especially just wanted to settle and have families, and I call them the salt of the earth generation. So I like Gen X people. Not to say that your parents were involved, Brandon. Obviously there's differences, but I'm just saying in general, Gen X individuals did not have parents really involved in their lives or grew up with a single parent or so forth. So it's quite unfortunate. Yeah, Gen X is very cynical of a generation. And my prediction in the paper I made was that the Zoomer generation would be very similar to Gen X. However, they will still be fairly involved in their politics and in their local governance, more so than Gen X, but they will have this cloud of cynicism and deliberate hatred for what the system has been built as, like Gen X. And not in the same way that millennials were. So that was my prediction in the paper, and I think it's for the most part coming into fruition, but time will still have to tell. But anyway, I have a few more stories for you guys, and the next few following stories are not happy ones. I will be frank with you. They are pretty sad. And they are, I diffuse awkward situations with laughter, so I apologize if I am laughing. But it is unfortunate, it is sad, and we're going to be talking about the groomer gangs that are happening in the UK. And the reason why I want to point this out is because, for multiple reasons. For one, Elon Musk has brought it up. And whether or not you want to be the cynical one and say he's just bringing it up because he's trying to reclaim his original base on Twitter and he's trying to reclaim his right-wing mantle, so to speak, that was placed on him from the Trump administration, or you think he genuinely believes in it. I don't think it matters. I still think it's a very pertinent issue, and I'm glad that it's being discussed online. And it did catch my attention because, honestly, I didn't know too much about this case, but I wanted to talk about it. So we are going to be talking about the groomer gangs in the UK, and some of which, I will not lie, will probably make you angry. It certainly made me angry enough to want to talk about it. At first, I didn't want to, honestly, because I do like keeping these shows lighter, but you also have to talk about things that, you know, I think are important, because at the end of the day, that's the point of this show. I have to bring up issues that are important, even though they may not be fun or unpopular they are unpopular to talk about. They are important, and they are necessary for the conversation about where the United States is going. Because even though this is happening in the UK, I think that it reflects a lot of the attitudes that we are experiencing and seeing here in the United States. And it could be a testimony, or it could be testimony for what would happen if we don't take these things seriously. And if we don't take law enforcement seriously. And if we don't take immigration seriously, and certain policies that we see people of various sides promote that are frankly deleterious and toxic to our country. So I'll be talking about that, but you guys will have to just stick with me. I will be pulling up those stories. I have to clear out all the tabs I have open now, so I will be right back, but just stay with it, and we will be talking about the groomer gangs in the UK.
We stand firm in our belief. Hold tight. Through the times clearer we can see. Crazy world spinning round. Stay grounded. In our hearts simple truths agree. Whisper of freedom and liberty rings true. Our foundation strong and deep. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow. In the story we built for trust and doubt, time flies but we won't bend. Communists talk loud and fast. Stay silent. Our quiet strength is our reply. So salute to change but pause. Reflect. In unity our dearest friend. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow. In shadows we find our light. Through chaos we stay upright. With courage, faith on our side. Forever. Standing firm, our guide. Holding on to what we know, while the rest of the world lets go. Steady paths we choose to follow, while the winds of change blow.
Well, here comes Daniela like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have glad you came out, and I'm so happy that you're queer. In the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Hey, Liberty lovers, stop scrolling, because if you're tired of the same old news, then I've got just the wake-up call for you. I want to thank you for tuning in to Culturama, and I know that you're enjoying every minute of it. Join us at rumble.com/AP4Liberty. The Wake Up America show is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a great way to start your day. Coffee's optional, but waking up is mandatory. Remember, at Wake Up America, we'll keep you sharp, we'll keep you laughing, most of all, we'll keep you free. I'll see you in the morning.
All right. Welcome back to Culturama, where on this show we are reclaiming the zeitgeist of traditional Americana back into the United States. Thank you for everyone that has joined us and will continue to join us, especially as we proceed forward with this very intense but important topic. And let me pull up like I promised, let me pull up the articles here for you and the posts about this. So give me 1 second here. And also, as I'm doing this, I do encourage you guys to send in a Rumble rant. I always say at the end of the show, if we get in enough Rumble rants, we'll always send Leo out. Leo is a bit tired today, but if it's also, if you just want to support the show, it's another good way to support the show. And if you can't donate something, I completely understand. The holidays we have just lived through the holiday season. I know everyone's in debt, so I completely understand. But if you do want to support the show, please like the stream and share it, especially if you're watching on X, because that also just spreads it out to more eyes, and it goes a long way in, advertising the show as well. So I'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's pull up the stories here. So, excuse me. Like I had mentioned, we have a fairly sensitive and serious topic to discuss here. And this is about the grooming gangs that are happening in the UK, primarily in Northern England. And for those that are unaware, I was unaware about this story before I decided to talk and report on it. But it is a case that has been happening for over 10 years. Law enforcement was aware of this. Parents of the girls and the individuals that were cut up on this were aware of it. And it was still bypassed, overlooked, and ignored for over a decade. And we are talking about gangs of Pakistani migrants who came into the UK and basically groomed children, young girls, and married them. There have been a few occasions where these Pakistani men have married these girls. And law enforcement was completely aware of this. And we will come to find this out as we proceed with the story. But this is an ongoing issue within the UK. It has been known to be an ongoing issue. And interestingly enough, Elon Musk has decided to talk about this, and there is some cynical attitude about whether or not he's doing this out of actual respect and concern for the issue, or this is just his way of garnering positive attention back after he was basically decimated on his own platform and social media platform, based off of the H-1B visa argument. And this is obviously a story that everyone can lock arms with and say that this is wrong, but it's still great that he did highlight this because like I said, I was unaware of this topic, and because he has brought attention to it, at least he alluded to it. Now, a lot of people are talking about it on X, and this is quite concerning to see that this is happening in Europe, and this is likely to happen here if we do not learn from it. So that's why I wanted to bring attention to it on my show as well. Let's take a listen to what Elon has to say about this.
In Britain, they're, I kid you not, how can this be real? They are releasing convicted pedophiles from prison in order to put people in prison for Facebook posts. There were, and this is I'm simply stating a fact, there were migrant rape gangs in England that would run around and prey on young girls, gang rape them, and some people found that objectionable, which obviously it should be objectionable.
Obviously, it should be objectionable.
And they were upset about that, and so they complained about it online, and were sent to prison.
Yeah. So
that sounds crazy. In Britain.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy, so crazy that it's happening because, newsflash, you kind of live in a crazy world. We live in a clown world, some would say. So this is just a transcript of what he said, but just to reiterate, they are luring young girls, they're assaulting them in horrific ways. This is a fact. When ordinary citizens voiced their outrage online, and again, these ordinary citizens included the parents of these young girls, just want to remind you of that. As any decent person should, they were the ones who were sent to prison. Think about that. Victims are ignored, criminals walk free, and those speaking out for justice are silenced and punished. That sounds insane. And for those that want even more proof, here is a tweet basically showing an article that pretty much encapsulates that it just all comes down to racial tensions, right? A senior police officer admitted that his force ignored the sexual abuse of girls by Pakistani grooming gangs for decades because it was afraid of increasing, quote, racial tensions, a watchdog has ruled. After a 5-year investigation, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, or IOPC, upheld a complaint that the Rotherham officer told a missing child's distraught father that the town would erupt if it was known that the Asian men were routinely having sex with underage white girls. They shouldn't care if the town would erupt. A girl is getting, well, I said the word rape, but she's getting groomed and raped and sexually assaulted. And I don't know the age of this particular individual, but these were girls up until like their early teens, so clearly still children. So yeah, here's another tweet showing this. For all his campaigning for justice has jeopardized his actual performance, seemingly in order to foment racial and religious tensions that merely make bad situations worse. So just to break it down for you and to tell you what's going on here, the law enforcement of Northern England didn't want to intervene and put the perpetrators behind bars because it would look bad, because it would look racist, apparently, by following through and imposing the law. and protecting the most vulnerable of society, young girls. But it would be racist to do so. So this is obviously ridiculous and wild, and you would have to really sit back and consider whether or not this is actually possible. Because I'm certain that 30 years ago, this wouldn't even be a conceivable notion that law enforcement would go out of their way to let young girls be harmed because they want to be politically correct. But here we are in 2025. Well, this has actually been going on since 2013 and even before then. So it's been going on for the last 10 years. But yeah, we live in a, thankfully it's more so coming out and we can actually talk about that. But we live in an age right now where these things actually happen. So when you hear leftists or progressives or even, centrists or even some right-wingers, I suppose, say that law enforcement would never go in so far as to allow people to get hurt just because of maintaining racial relations, yes, they will. We have seen that for the last several years here in the United States, especially during COVID, during the George Floyd protests. We have seen people, small businesses and families, lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods, so that law enforcement can retain positive race relations within our country. But those situations, especially with the riots, can at least be, I suppose, explained away by somehow, saying that in some parts of the country law enforcement did get involved, in other parts they didn't. These were just rioting. This is just collateral damage, regardless. But this is, I would say, even more serious, obviously, because law enforcement knew, and this wasn't some public display of this isn't like some public display of dissatisfaction with the present political system or system that we live in, like what the race riots of George Floyd were. And again, I'm not justifying those riots. I certainly am not. But you could at least, as a leftist or whatever, as a BLM advocate, justify and say that this was a public display of dissatisfaction, and they're taking up arms against the system that they find is filled with injustice. This is different and more insidious because there's no reason for this to even be occurring. Not that the riots had a reason, but this most certainly cannot be justified by any political movement or ideology or organization or nonprofit organization. This is just simply wrong. And you have predators living basically out in the open in this country, and law enforcement knew about it and did nothing to stop it. So it's almost as if they want it to occur. And that's really how I'm going to frame it, is that they want it to occur, frankly. They didn't do anything about it just because of race relations. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but how cucked are you as a country? You're going to let these people come in your country and rape your girls, and you just you want everything to look good. It's very strange behavior. Here is another tweet detailing where these networks are found. Every dot on this map represents where the grooming gangs were found, and yet the UK government had rejected calls for public inquiry. Every council, police force, and local authority in these towns and cities should be investigated now, obviously. So look at all that. Obviously quite a bit to deal with, and the fact that they didn't intervene initially most likely contributed to the fact that these networks would proliferate even further. So now you have all this to deal with. And here is a video of a victim talking about this. So let me just read the tweet for you. The grooming gang specifically targeted girls who were white and non-Muslim. White girls are trash. They're, I don't know if I can say this word again, but I'll just be safe. White girls are trash. And it was indeed racism, but it was not the right kind of racism for the mainstream media to care about. So let's take a listen at this video.
Grooming gang survivor calls what happened to her anti-Western religious and racist abuse.
When I was a victim, I was raped multiple times, I was beaten, I was tortured, and throughout all of that I was constantly being racially abused. There was a constant barrage of, you're a white slag, you're a white whore, you're a fucking gory, which is the Pakistani word for white person. So the racist abuse was non-stop. The religious abuse is real. Like, I was taught it as a type of othering. Like, our Pakistani girls are good and pure, and they cover themselves, they're virgins till they're married. But white girls are trash, they're whores, they all sleep with hundreds of men, they're all worthless. I don't think it's good to hide this information.
Bree, this grooming gang survivor calls what happened to her
So clearly this is
anti-West.
also a form of religious retaliation on the people of the UK. It's very interesting that this is how these men try to frame and justify their behaviors in this, saying that because white girls are trash, they can engage in this behavior and take advantage of these girls. So obviously there is some, I suppose, ethnic tensions here involved, but it's also quite ideological and it's religious, and that's how they're justifying their behavior. Here are the gang ringleaders. There's 50 men who sexually abused or raped 74 underage girls. Still hasn't been deported after 9 years after receiving his deportation order. So 9 years after receiving the order, still hasn't been deported. This individual, Kari Rauf, I suppose is how you say it, was released in 2014, just 2.5 years into a 6-year sentence. He still lives near his victims. So this guy right here, this guy on the right, but you have these individuals who are only in prison for 2 years for this egregious behavior that, frankly, I have my own opinions, but I think it requires a much harsher sentence. I would say an eternal sentence, if you ask me. But regardless, they're only in prison for 2 years. They have had a deportation order for the last 9 and still hasn't been deported. And he still lives near his victims. I bet the victims' parents feel really good about that, and obviously have a great pride in their nation for protecting people like them. And lastly, these are the transcripts from the case. Now, I will not be reading the transcripts online for various purposes. For one, I personally don't want to read them. I read the first few sentences and I just tapped out. I don't like to think I have a weak stomach, but I suppose in this case I do. But also, I don't want to get demonetized or have my stream taken down, because it will get taken down if I read this entire transcript. But if you're interested in reading the transcript, this is a tweet. It's from this individual called Geiger_Capital, and I don't know this Twitter account, but I just found them. So Geiger_Capital posted it, and you can find it and read it there. But the transcripts, I suppose, are the most revealing about really the perverted minds of these individuals, and they're just running free in the country. The UK grooming gang's trial transcript is one of the most disturbing things I have ever read. Thousands of young girls, mostly white, were victims of Pakistani grooming gangs. Out of the fear of being branded racist, the girls' own government tried to cover it up. So it's one thing if you live in a society that limits free speech and tries to amplify this message that we are living in a racist system, in a racist society. We have the talking points of white privilege and academia, and trickling down even to the lower levels of education, including K through 12. That's one thing. It's an entirely different thing to basically allow networks of violence and sex abuse proliferate in your country and allowing it to happen and justifying not getting involved because you don't want to appear racist. I don't even understand how that can happen. I mean, have they completely brainwashed themselves into thinking that this is okay? It has to be some higher tier level of insanity to allow this to happen. Okay, I'm going to check on the chat here. Remember when ethical relativism or cultural relativism used to be confined to how people behaved in other countries. Now it is how to judge people in your own country. Right, exactly. We have, by the way, we have a $20 donation from Bucks Nasty. Thank you so much, Bucks Nasty. I really appreciate it. I always love seeing your comments in the chat, so thank you so much for donating. He writes, you have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose, Dr. Seuss. Bucks Nasty is just trying to get the Unleash the Beast to happen here. I get it, Bucks Nasty. Thank you so much for the $20. Okay, JJ48884, Ro, I sent some info on the text line. Okay, let me check the text line. I haven't been advertising that, but let me check if I received anything. Are you sure you sent it to the right number, JJ? Because I don't see it here. But if you do want me to read your texts, I do have a number here. Let me get it out for you. It is 573-416-0635. Once again, 573-416-0635 is the text line. So the rule is that especially when the chat is popping off and there's not time for me to cover it, you can text that number and I will most certainly get to your answers. Considering how frequently I engage with the chat now and I feel more comfortable to do so, and I have been getting donations in, I haven't been really advertising the text line as much, but if you want me to for sure receive your information, JJ, make sure it's the right number. It is 573-416-0635. Because I don't think I have received your text. The last one I got was December 3rd. All right, so anyways, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. I really hope that obviously pressure from Twitter or Elon won't get the law enforcement within the UK to really do anything about this situation, but it really is concerning that this is happening there, and I most definitely foresee it occurring here. And you know what? In fact, I'm pretty sure it already is occurring here. I'm going to make any specific allegations here, but I do have. Let's be real here. Do you have such good feelings about our country right now, where you think this is impossible to occur in the United States, or do you think that this is occurring there in the United States? Because I think this is a good litmus test to see how much faith you have in a nation and whether or not the nation is really doing a good job in protecting its people, in protecting its national identity, and in keep maintaining a robust law enforcement system and body. Because frankly, I'm of the assertion right now that our country is not doing so well, and the same attitudes that are happening in the UK could very well transpire here. I really don't want that to be the case, but considering what I've been seeing occurring for the last couple decades, I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Exactly, Jeffrey Epstein, Bucks Nasty. You just took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say. Exactly, it's like the Jeffrey Epstein case. Clearly, these things are happening. Now, as far as the Jeffrey Epstein case or Sean Combs is concerned, for those cases, they aren't allowed for such ridiculous, stupid reasons like we see in the UK, just because the law enforcement doesn't want to appear racist or discriminate against certain religious beliefs. Once again, nothing in Islam, as far as I'm aware, allows this behavior to happen. And I'm a big critique. I critique Islam quite a bit, but I don't even think Islam would justify this behavior. I could be wrong, though. But child trafficking and sex slavery exist in the U.S. Industrial wood chippers running a full speed for a year would be a good start. Child trafficking and sex slavery does occur, absolutely. But I'm more so talking about allowing it to happen because law enforcement doesn't want to appear racist. It's one thing. All child trafficking is bad, obviously. Of course, obviously. But whether or not it's a bribe situation or it's a blackmail situation, and you're maintaining these systems and these networks to as basically as a honeypot, is different, just as wrong, but is a different situation, a different conversation than what is happening in the UK, where they are actively allowing this to happen just because they're trying to keep appearances. Both equally bad. Everyone involved in both situations need to be held up to trial and get a harsh sentence, if not an eternal sentence, but regardless. Thank you, Mr. Pig. He's saying this is great coverage. Brandon J. Meyer, I don't know under those specific requirements, but we are dangerously close. Exactly, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the fact that we are getting close to that and that we are going to allow, once again, the most vulnerable in society to become violently abused and taken advantage of just because we don't want to appear a certain way. Because this rhetoric, this anti-racist rhetoric, is just getting to the point where it doesn't even make any logical sense anymore. Because it is logical to want to protect the people of your country and to protect the most vulnerable, and you don't want to do that because of this rhetoric that is so toxic to the point that it is hurting people. It is hurting people, it is ruining their lives, it is breaking apart families, and it is taking control over the decisions of leadership. Because leadership are put into their positions of power and into their great decision-making roles because we are supposed to entrust them our safety, our well-being, and the well-being of our society. And the people that implement the laws and regulations that are meant to protect us are not doing their jobs. And the decision makers, they do have these networks and bodies of law enforcement that is there to enforce the laws, are not making them enforce the laws. And so when you see this entire system basically full of corrupt people, and it is corrupt to allow this behavior, everyone involved in the situation, they're not just ignoring it, they're corrupt, and they're allowing it to happen. They're bystanders, and bystanding is just as bad as doing the act itself. And so we are going to allow these people that are fully corrupt and allowing everything to break down and allowing society to break down. Because if we cannot protect the most vulnerable in society, there really is no point of having a society. The point of maintaining a civilization and a society is to keep people safe. Is to keep your people safe, to keep your people active, to allow them active positions to engage with greater society, have jobs, build families. But we can't even protect our own most vulnerable. What kind of a society is that? If anything, that's sad. You might as well just live in nature at that point. There's no reason to pay taxes or to engage with greater society if you cannot even have your own child be protected. I'm just reading the comments here because I know you guys have a lot of good input. We're doing good numbers on Rumble here and even better numbers on X. So I do implore those that are watching on X, please like and share the stream. Quote tweet it if you have to, but just make sure you get it out there for as many eyes as possible because these topics are important and I'm trying to cover what I think is the most important for us to discuss. And this is something that I don't see too many streamers cover, especially this topic in particular. And so it would be a great benefit if you share the stream, and also if you would donate to the stream as well. I really would appreciate that. I love the people that do watch my show and tune in. I love all of you guys. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you stick around till the very end as well, because we still have a lot more stories to cover that, once again, are very important. Okay, people are bringing up the quartering in my chat. I don't know why that would be, but you brought it up, the quartering. I would love to see if I could get him on for an interview. Wouldn't that be amazing? Maybe the next few streams I'll try to get the quartering up. Happy New Year, says JJ4884. Happy New Year, JJ. I hope you had a really good evening. What did you guys do for New Year's Eve? I went to a friend's house. Did I just say I went for a friend? I'm sorry. English is my second language. I went to a friend's house. We watched the ball drop and we had a good time, had some champagne. It wasn't anything too crazy, but it was fun. I know a lot of people stayed home though. Okay, I'm going to bring up the next few stories here because, like I said, we still have a lot more to cover. People are talking about theocracy in the chat. When Jesus reigns during the millennium, Bible scholars call that a theocratic monarchy. Okay, very interesting. JJ4884, I slept during midnight but woke up at 3 a.m. Solid. That is solid. That sounds like something I would do. Okay. Entropy Nomad. English is my first language and I still have a time saying it. I think you mean you have a hard time saying it? English is a very difficult language to learn, actually, for anyone, but especially for people who are learning it as like their second language is very difficult. Bucks Nasty said he did nothing. Okay, fair enough. You were sick. Brandon says, I stayed at home drunk tweeting. What a wonderful and fun pastime, Brandon. I hope you didn't break up at any connections or professional opportunities through that, but I'm sure it was a really fun time. Is it still tweeting, or is that a word we have changed as it became X? I think there was a word. When X became X, there was a particular word for it, but I don't think anyone remembers it. It was completely memory hold because no one even cared. I don't remember it. Everyone that I talk to, I don't think remembers or uses it. I only hear people say that we're tweeting. So... But anyway, we have good viewership now, so I'm just going to try to maintain this viewership as best I can. I will be bringing up the next few stories, so bear with me, and I will be right back.
In the heart they gather strong, pushing back the lefty's throng. With the red banner held high, marching forward through the night. Promises of old will keep as the donkeys start to weep. Stars and stripes forever sway. In the land of the brave we stay. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
With a flagpole planted firm,
golden dreams that won't decay,
marching proudly through the day. In the eagle's shadow by, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we strive in the light of freedom's guide. We got the power now in the heart of every town. We've got the power now. The Reds are going down.
The sleigh bells start to chime, Jesus votes right every time. He's bringing cheer to each and every place. With a twinkle in his eye, underneath the starry sky, he's smiling bright and full of holy grace. Oh, I believe he's there. When the choir sings, I swear, a blessed night we'll kneel and pray. His love will light the darkest winter gray. With my family gathered here in the season full of cheer, a time of peace and love forever stay. Oh, I believe he's ready.
Savior, guiding us in his great favor. Through the world his truth will stay, keeping faith in him today. I serve Jesus,
Okay, welcome back to Culturama. I have received insider knowledge on some of the stories that I have been covering multiple times here. So let me refer to those first before I proceed with the rest of the stream and the stories that I had outlined for you guys. JJ had sent me, hang on a second. So JJ4884 had sent me this tweet, and this is what I was discussing earlier, that on the Washington Monument, Capitol Building, the Empire State... Oh, wow, there was three, okay. The Washington Monument... See, I thought it was just the Capitol Building. The Washington Monument, the Capitol Building, and the Empire State Building were all struck by lightning on New Year's Eve. And after that, we had a Cybertruck explosion outside of Trump Tower. What are the odds? 2025 is going to be an explosive year. Can we make this bigger? Okay. Look at that. Wow. So, checkmate, atheists. Okay, here's another one. The Washington Monument. There you go. Jeez. I live in Washington State and it didn't rain this much. So that's there you go. And then here is the Washington Monument. Wow. Look at that. So all three happened in the East Coast, but very interesting. It was these three. Obviously, you know, you can explain this as just very large structures, so it's going to happen in for the tallest structures. I don't know how tall the Washington Monument is. I'm pretty sure it's one of the taller items in the country, but quite interesting. If God was real, this is what he'd do. This user wrote exactly. So yeah, this is what I was talking about previously. Very interesting developments happening, and all of these interesting events. Also, I had someone comment on the stream. I always retweet my stream whenever I stream. And someone wrote this as a comment. They wrote, "Can you mention this? Reportedly, the assailant," I'm presuming he means the one that did the Cybertruck attack, presumably, or reportedly, the assailant spent time in Afghanistan, Georgia, Tajikistan, and Germany as an SF operator. In Germany, he trained Ukrainian troops. So, this is just from a tweet I got, but there you go. There you have it. I think I saw somewhere saying that he did train Ukrainian troops, so obviously some more foreign connections there. Okay, moving onward, we have this post by Donald J. Trump. And I'm going to read it out loud to you because I want to take it as a white pill or perhaps a gold pill, if you will. And I want to take it seriously. I'm not going to be doomering right now because I have the next few stories that I will be covering would lead one to doomer pill quite a bit. But I just want to read this off the bat, so hopefully we can have a better attitude for the new year. Donald J. Trump wrote this. It was on Truth Social. Hero, our country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the world. This is what happens when you have open borders with weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership. The DOJ, FBI, and Democrat state and local prosecutors have not done their job. I don't know how I can read. They are incompetent and corrupt, having spent all of their waking hours unlawfully attacking their political opponent, me, rather than focusing on protecting Americans from outside and inside violent scum that has infiltrated all aspects of our government and our nation itself. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen to our country. The CIA must get involved. Now, he capitalizes these random words, before it is too late. The USA is breaking down. A violent erosion of safety, national security, and democracy is taking place all across the nation. Only strength and powerful leadership will stop it. See you on January 20th. Make America great again. So, he does seem to be serious, obviously. I think that he is filled with an attitude of retribution, and I hope that he will bring that forth as he proceeds on with the next 4 years. I really hope he follows through on these promises and he follows through on this post. Because the next few stories I'm going to be covering doesn't lead me to believe that would be the case, but we shall see as we go forth. Hold on a second. I didn't pull up one story here, so let me get it up here. My apologies for my lack of... Where is it? There it is. Yeah, I wanted to cover this because I saw everyone talking about it right before I got on stream. Alright, so... Bernie Sanders made this tweet, everyone. Is not to hire the best and the brightest, but rather to replace good-paying American jobs with low-wage, indentured servants from abroad. The cheaper labor they hire, the more money the billionaires will make. Okay, so we have... Okay, there we go. So we have Bernie Sanders, of all people, tweet this. And stand by the position that the H-1B visa program is not being articulated nor fulfilled in the way that it was meant to be. And in fact, he is recognizing the fact that we are essentially recreating a serf class. And, you know, depending on where you are in this debate, I understand. In my last stream, I tried to take both positions, but, you know, clearly if you read my tweets, you would know my stance on the position of the H-1B visa debate. Regardless, I still think it's important to understand all aspects of the conversation. But there is no denying that a lot of people are being personally affected by this. Working class and non-working class Americans, American families, students that have just graduated. You have people personally affected by this and are unable to find a job in their field, find a job anywhere really, because the job market frankly sucks right now. But you know, and clearly this is benefiting, like he's saying, and I hate to use Bernie Sanders rhetoric here, but helping the billionaires, helping the tech executives, the Elon Musks of the world, but it's not really happening to the salt of the earth Americans that are trying to build their lives, especially out of school, but even beyond getting out of school, even years down the line. They cannot start families, they cannot get good paying jobs, they have to struggle. And they have to struggle because we're importing the third world into our country, and we have to compete with the third world and the rest of the world, when we frankly shouldn't. And, you know, I've seen people from my political group or my political alignment say that, well, if you finding yourself agreeing with Bernie Sanders, that just means you're on the wrong side of the debate. Okay, maybe. Or perhaps if you're finding yourself agreeing with Bernie Sanders, something is wrong. Not with you, but with the system. I personally can attest to this. I mean, as someone that has applied to the Cato Institute multiple times, I was receiving rejection after rejection after rejection. And come to find out, I looked into it this morning, and the Cato Institute itself are receiving H-1Bs for these positions, and I really don't understand why we have people taking these policy-oriented or political positions if they're from a different country. We have, like look at this. We have an economist, health policy program manager, policy analyst, up to $100,000 a year. We have research and program managers. Some of these are entry level, some of these are senior positions. Research fellow, $140,000 a year. H-1B. Research associate, research assistant, program manager, policy analyst. Why is the Cato Institute receiving H-1Bs for policy analysis? And you have specialists in the country living here already that are more than willing to work for you and to go out there where you're located or work for you, but instead you want to hire immigrants or, you know, people from a different country that really have no bearing or no attachment to this country, honestly. And beyond that, so the think tank world and the conservative networks already in the United States are benefiting from this. The tech industry in Silicon Valley are benefiting from this. But average everyday Americans are dying. Just not physically, but they're spiritually dying from this. They're dissolving as a class of people. And who do we have to look up to in this entire situation? Here's another article I found. Tesla laid off thousands of U.S. workers and replaced them with H-1B migrants. And amidst all of that, you can find people that say that this is just a skill issue and that, you know, people like Ian Miles Chong will say it's a skill issue and that Americans just aren't working hard enough and they're not disciplined enough to do this. Meanwhile, we have actual people here, 15,000, by the way, U.S. workers that were skilled enough to have the job, retain the job, and do the job, being laid off for cheaper work. Reports from current and former employees alongside the U.S. Department of Labor reveal that Elon Musk's Tesla has significantly augmented its H-1B visa requests to fill positions previously held by around 15,000 U.S. workers, who were let go in April of 2024. The layoffs were widespread across Tesla's departments, but were notably concentrated in Texas and California. The H-1B program currently allows U.S. companies to hire foreigners for 3 years, which can be extended once, contingent upon continuous employment with the sponsoring employer. Criticism has arisen due to the potential employer control over foreign workers, sometimes equated with modern indentured servitude. During its aggressive layoff period, Tesla also applied for over 2,000 H-1B visas, accounting for more than 3% of America's national quota. Many laid-off employees were senior engineers with substantial pay, reportedly replaced by junior foreign engineers receiving lower wages. So right there, I mean, is it a skill issue? No, it's a price issue. These people don't want to pay as much. The practice has prompted concerns about the displacement of American workers and companies leveraging the H-1B program to reduce labor costs. Musk has ardently defended the expansion of H-1B programs, asserting a shortage of skilled U.S. workers, essential for companies like Tesla. This viewpoint, however, has attracted criticism from American First conservatives, who argue that the H-1B program jeopardizes American job security. Proponents like Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy advocate that H-1B visas are crucial for filling vital knowledge gaps within the specific industries in American workforce. A data analysis from the National Pulse disproved such claims. I didn't look at this, but let's take a look at this study. Okay, I have to read more of the article to get it. H-1B visa caps exceeded 99.9% of approval rate, chain migration increasing. And yeah, you still had to deal with the chain migration issue as well. But yeah, this isn't a skill issue. This isn't a drain of skill happening in the United States. If anything, I mean, there's brain drain happening all across the world except in the United States. And it's only about cost. And this is what we have to be honest here about, okay? Is that these big tech executives and the tech right, like Elon Musk, just need to come out and say it. And say what they really mean. This is cheaper labor. It has nothing to do with a skill issue or a lack of skills or a lack of specialization within the United States. It's only because they want to save their money. And this article, I think, clearly reveals that we have had for at least 15,000 U.S. workers who are fairly adept and specialized in this field being just replaced, cut off, because a junior, what did it say? A junior foreign engineer from India will work 80 hours for a far less pay. Okay, well, if that didn't wrestle your jimmies, it definitely wrestled mine. You know, especially since it is purposely, as well, some might argue, but it's personally affecting me. It's personally affecting the people around me that I see online, and in real life, in person. And, you know, people like us strive to do better in this country. We strive to get jobs in our fields. We go to school so we can better our nation. We really believe in the principles of what makes America great. And then you leave school and you go into the workforce just to find out that the positions that you have been applying for are being taken by immigrants that are just coming in here just so they could chain migrate with their families and really have no sense of honor or no sense of respect for the country like you did. When you went to school and you held to your principles all throughout college, because a lot of us do that. I know a lot of people like to say that college is just a place where they go and brainwash students, but there's a lot of people like me out there who don't get brainwashed. They just have to go through the system like everyone else so they can get that degree, so they can get that job, so they can better their countries. And the entire network that you thought would have your back doesn't. They just don't have your back. They don't care about you. They care about cheaper labor. And, you know, that's what it really comes down to. And yeah, you really do start to have this level of cynicism posed against your country. And, you know, one would think that Trump would be not the savior of this situation or the embodiment of the entire movement that wants to rectify the situation, because Trump has faults just like everyone else. But really, like, we don't have much hope out there, frankly. So hopefully future leaders and future paragons of the movement, or younger paragons of the movement in the future, will start to create these think tanks and these policy oriented institutions, and retain and obtain positions of power and decision-making power and legislative powers where they can make a difference. Because really, we have to rely on the next generation, because the present generation and clearly the previous generations aren't doing anything to stop it. They just don't. I hate to be doomer-pilled, but the boomer situation really is making it worse. The older generations aren't making any better, and we just hope that the younger generation doesn't sell out as they come into these roles, where they will fashion the culture of the United States and make decisions that hopefully will better the country. Entropy Nomad writes, the American dream need not apply to Americans, apparently. Exactly. And that's how I feel. I really do. And like Vivek, I was born here. My parents were not American citizens. They became citizens later on. But I was born here as a first generation, and like, I understand where you may not feel completely assimilated to the country that you live in, but you have to understand that I always call myself an American first. I never describe myself as a Ukrainian American or a Russian American or whatever, like these people that call themselves Indian American, for instance. No, you're an American first, and that's how it should be. If you're going to partake in the systems of this country, if you want to contribute to this country and take from it, you have to align yourself with the principles of serving the nation first. And that just makes complete sense to me. And I understand the argument of having to make associations and relations with other countries, because we are part of an international system, and as essentially the superpower of the world, we have to maintain these interconnected relationships. And I completely understand that, and I'm an advocate for that. I'm not saying that we must be completely isolationists. I never had that position anytime in my political history or beliefs. But when it comes to economic policies here at home and domestic policies, especially as it pertains to the workforce and the job market. If your own people cannot even start a family, we cannot allow that to continue. We have to answer to that first. And if we don't have Americans feeling comfortable enough to get into the job market, to start families, to contribute to the economy, we don't have a nation. We're someone else's nation. And the American dream is dead. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for the last 30 or 40 years, and it will continue not to exist unless something happens. JJ4884 wrote, as a first-gen American, I am having a rough time in my career. Yes, JJ, I am with you, actually. I agree with you, and I understand what you mean. Yeah, exactly. As a first-generation American, your parents have come here, and you think that you are starting a better life, and it turns out they don't care about you. You're not new enough as an immigrant, I guess, to really benefit from the system. Alrighty, well, I hate to be so doomer-pilled, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to be bringing up just a couple more fun things for you in the last 10 minutes. So just hang in there. We have really good viewership on Rumble, actually, for myself. And if you stick around till the very end, we have the Liberty Tonight show as well. So stick around for that. They will be streaming on Rumble right after I am. I think you guys will enjoy it. It's more of a nightly show. It's pretty fun. My show is slightly more serious, but the Liberty Tonight show on the For Liberty Network makes a really good, fun night for me every time I watch. So, and I think you will enjoy it as well. So make sure to stick around for that. Let me pull up the last few stories here on the stream and hopefully end on a lighter note. We did cover some heavier topics today. We covered a lot of hurtful topics, maybe some would consider a bit doomer-pilled as far as the job market is concerned, but all important conversations to have. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. It will not be a long commercial, I promise.
Out in the cold snow's falling down, jingling bells ring all through the town. Santa's on his mission to spread cheer, no doubt. With this sack of courage, he's gonna stomp it out. Communists beware, hear his shout.
Here comes Santa Claus with his joy.
Okay. So I found this tweet the other day, guys. Do you agree with it? Proud to represent USA. So this individual made this little... I just want you to take a look at it. So we ignore the Ian Miles Chong chat. Is it a chud? It's a chud, I suppose. Ian Miles Chong Jack on the right side. I don't know if you guys can see that. I can. Yeah, so I found this tweet here, and they basically summarized the entire break that we have seen happening within the last couple weeks here. A lot of it has been spurred by the H-1B debate. I don't know where they're making their assertions from, but I found it quite interesting. And do you guys agree? Obviously, this is going to be more of a Twitter-based thing. So if you don't know anything about Twitter or right-wing Twitter, maybe this will fly over your head. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. We have Team USA, and I suppose they mean like MAGA conservatives. And then we have Team Elon. I assume they mean from that, what they mean from that is the right tech. Or the tech right, whatever people have been saying. Basically, Elon and Vivek, who were pro H-1B, and then you have Team USA that were anti-H-1B. And, you know, we have a few unsavory figures here, but we also have a few figures that I think are, that has been quite accurate. And some that I think aren't quite as accurate. Like, for instance, I don't think Charlie Kirk should be here, all things considered, because Charlie Kirk was quite clear about being opposed to Elon's viewpoints as far as H-1Bs are concerned. They have Jack Posobiec here, and he works alongside with Turning Point USA. So some of this is a bit inaccurate. But clearly you have people like James Lindsay on the Elon side, people like Richard Hanania, okay? Michaela Peterson has made her fair share of tweets about H-1Bs. Tim Pool, I don't even know if he took a stance. I could be wrong. Scott Pressler is here, interestingly enough. Adria Dittman, of course. So what do Ian Miles Chong, a big one. So I don't know if InfoWars, if Alex Jones came out publicly supporting H1Bs. I think he made like a vague tweet about it. I could be wrong, but I guess he wasn't like full on board anti-H1B, so he made it on this list. Libertarian memes is here. I think that's what they're called, the capybara. And then you have people on this side, which I follow most of these people on both sides, but you have Libs of TikTok, Jack Posobiec, Laura Loomer, Ann Coulter, you know. Regrettably, you have Nick Fuentes, Fisher King. So we have Sam Hyde here as well. Do you guys agree with this chart? Interesting thing. Has Tim Pool taken a stance on anything? I don't know. That's a very good question. He kind of reminds me of, oh, what was his name? There was a YouTuber, there was like a right-wing YouTuber. I totally forgot his name. Shoot. What was it? I used to watch him all the time. He would read articles online and he would never take a stance on anything. He was basically the enlightened centrist. Peachy Keenan. Yes, JJ4884. Peachy Keenan is there. I'm not a big fan of Peachy Keenan. I like some of her stuff, but I'm not like a... She has opinions that I can't always. Cat Turd is Elon. Apparently the Cat Turd is on that list, yeah. Crowder? Was Crowder on there? I didn't see Crowder on here. Crowder. I didn't see Crowder on here, but I could have just missed him. I don't see him. Mark Levin is on the team, Elon. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see Crowder. I didn't see Crowder's tweets on it. Did Crowder agree or disagree with the H1B situation? Frankly, I haven't watched Mug Club in like a year now. I used to watch Mug Club, believe it or not. I wasn't a subscriber, but I wouldn't send Crowder money. But I did watch him quite a bit. Brandon, I don't think I'm aware of 70% of those people. It's okay, Brandon. It's not for everyone. It was just for the people on Twitter like I am. It's not for everyone. Although I will say this. So no, social media isn't everything. Social media isn't everything to do with politics. However, these days, social media, especially X as a platform, does facilitate a lot of discourse. And I think that if you are someone that wants to be active within the political movement in the United States or wants to basically have a seat at the table as far as what the conversation is, X is somewhat of a requisite because a lot of these conversations start on Twitter. And especially like the H1B situation has started on Twitter. And it's gotten to the point where Trump himself, sitting president, has to make an announcement about it. And it all started off from Twitter. So it would be amiss of me to claim that Twitter means nothing, especially, or these Anon accounts mean nothing, but they mean something. But I do understand the sentiment of like, well, if it's just online, it doesn't have any importance. Because, connections making in real life are much more significant, I would say, than online. But networking and having these conversations and this discourse is still important to be a part of. And oftentimes, they do happen online. Entropy Nomad says, both your mugs sit happily on my desk. That is so sweet. Thank you. Okay, we have only a couple minutes left, and ordinarily I like to stay on longer. However, we do have the Liberty Tonight show. So everyone, if you would be ever so kind to stay tuned, and we will have the Liberty Tonight show on. Let me see if I could post a link in the chat before I sign off here. I haven't had any links sent to me, so let me just look it up on Rumble right now. I believe they're having a stream tonight. Hope I'm not wrong, but yes, they are. Okay, so here we go. Let me see if I can there we go. So the Liberty Tonight show is starting soon. I'm going to copy and paste the link here for you guys, for those that do want to stick around and watch it. Oh, thank you so much, Bucks Nasty. Leo will make an appearance next. There we go. I posted a link in the chat. Leo will make an appearance next stream. He is kind of, sluggish tonight and he wants to sleep. But thank you everyone for your donations. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week. We are still going to have wonderful interview guests. We're going to be covering the most heated hot topic stories. So thank you for joining on Culturama tonight. And thank you for taking a part in reclaiming the zeitgeist back here in the United States. I hope to see you all in the Liberty Tonight show chat. So I hope to see you there, everyone. Otherwise, for those that aren't going to join, have a good night, and I will see you next week.
In our little town, so serene, where the grass is green, the air so clean, we gather round the table every night. Joyful days, oh, was I in, with values passed, with generations past, living life with love that surely lasts. As the city lights look bright, we hope you are